I am the sole princess of the royal family, a golden branch and jade leaf, noble beyond words, but also an incessant chatterbox. At 18, still unmarried and confined to the inner chambers, my emperor brother could no longer endure my endless prattle. Adhering to the principle of compensating for what's lacking, he betrothed me to the Duke of Zhengguo's son, Chuining. Not only was Chuining a mute with a damaged voice, but he was also a sickly man who gasped for breath with every step he took. Later, Chuining turned red from my words, so invigorated that his back no longer ached, his legs no longer hurt, and he could run for half an hour without stopping. Pushed too far, he'd even leap up like a rabbit and start cursing. You, Shameless. Well, medical miracle. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. I am the precious princess my father the emperor painstakingly prayed for. The year my mother the empress was pregnant with me, my father would burn incense, cleanse himself, and kneel in prayer before the Buddha every day. He would chant with wooden fish, study Buddhist scriptures, and the words Amitabha Buddha often lingered on his lips. Perhaps my father's sincerity moved the heavens, and thus I was born. The sky was clear and the breeze gentle that day. When a prolonged wailing cry pierced the imperial palace's skies, the emperor took one look at me and immediately burst into tears, hugging me while howling like a ghost and crying like a wolf. It couldn't be helped. Before my birth, the emperor had 6 children, every single one a boy, mischievous troublemakers. Despised by people and loathed by dogs, the emperor had long yearned for a daughter. From the moment I was born, my imperial father gathered the finest wet nurses, the most skilled governesses, and the most learned tutors from the capital. Filled with hope, he expected me to grow up like my mother, the capital's most beautiful woman, graceful, elegant, well-educated, gentle, and virtuous. But from the age of 3 months, my talkative nature had already begun to show. Back then, still swaddled in my cradle, I could only wave my arms and babble incoherently, making my imperial father and mother burst into laughter. But I kept babbling incessantly, driving my royal parents to distraction. Whenever I drew out my voice in a long wail, the emperor would immediately summon the imperial physician. Quick, call the imperial physician. What on earth is wrong with our precious princess? When I continued my endless babbling without pause, the empress' tears fell like broken strings as she cried out, "Imperial physician, imperial physician," at 3 months old. The first group of people I tormented were the imperial physicians who nearly ran their legs off, constantly shuttling between the imperial hospital and the Phoenix Palace. The imperial physicians gathered around my cradle, scrutinizing me carefully. Finally, they all wiped the cold sweat from their brows in unison and stammered out their diagnosis. Her Highness is in good health, she probably just enjoys talking. The emperor snorted with widened eyes. Quacks, a bunch of quacks. Later, the emperor and empress had to helplessly admit that I truly did love to chatter. I not only love to talk, but also can't bear to be alone. I must have those close to me stay by my side. Thus, my father the emperor, my mother the empress, and those around me suffered the consequences. In the mornings, when my father left early for court, my mother was left alone to soothe me. She would hold me, drowsy and barely able to keep her eyes open, only to be jolted awake the moment she began to drift off by my babbling murmurs. Our eyes met, hers now only filled with exhaustion. After barely enduring the morning court session, I was delivered safe and sound into my father the emperor's hands. Father held me in his arms while reviewing memorials in the study. My wide eyes stared as my tiny mouth occasionally let out little cries. Startled, his brush slipped across the page like a dragon and snake in motion, utterly ruining what had been a perfectly good memorial. I grinned broadly, revealing teeth as small as grains of rice. The emperor sighed helplessly and spoke with earnest gravity. "My precious princess, you certainly know how to make trouble." By the time my 6 elder brothers returned from school, I had just eaten my fill and woken from a nap. 6 elder brothers gathered around my cradle, gazing at my tiny hands and feet with enchanted smiles. The eldest brother said, "Little sister, I'm your eldest brother." I smiled happily. "Yaya." Second brother wasn't one to be left behind. "Little sister, it's me, second brother." I clapped my little hands in delight. "Yaya, The remaining brothers all clamored in turn, "Little sister, what's your third brother?" "Yeah, me. I'm fourth brother." I gave him all the face he could want. That day, my brothers chattered non-stop while I babbled endlessly, turning the entire Phoenix Palace upside down with our noise. The brothers left satisfied, and I closed my mouth, equally content. The maids of Fengyi Palace, however, wore twisted expressions, their eyes dazed. A mere 3-month-old princess, how could she be so terrifying? The emperor pondered deeply, utterly baffled by how I could speak so fluently. He tossed and turned, then looked up and met the compassionate face of the Buddha, startling him with a gasp. I understand now. It must be that one day while I was meditating before the Buddha, I accidentally dozed off. The Buddha, angered, sent me a talkative daughter to make me remember the lesson of that day. The emperor held my tiny hands and feet, wailing loudly, "Jinji, your father has wronged you." My poor father would rather believe it was his own fault than admit it was mine. By the time I turned 3, I learned to speak with astonishing speed. While other children were still stumbling over broken phrases, I could already articulate long, fluent sentences without pause. Father was utterly amazed and took me everywhere to show off. Those repeated flatteries and praises made Father Emperor beam with joy, his eyebrows dancing with delight. Sitting in Father Emperor's lap, my little face flushed red as I chattered away non-stop. The Prime Minister stepped forward with softened eyes, his lips parting to speak, but my tiny hands quickly covered them. "Don't you say it, let me be the one to tell, Uncle Chancellor. What color are you wearing today, Your Highness?" "It's purple." "Why did you choose to wear purple?" The Chancellor smiled warmly. "To answer the little princess, officials of the 3rd rank and above in our dynasty wear purple. Those of the 5th rank and above wear crimson, the 6th and 7th ranks wear green, while the 8th and 9th ranks wear blue. I am the current Prime Minister, and according to regulations, I should wear purple." I continued to ask questions. "Then, Uncle Prime Minister, why is your hat black? Why is your jade pendant green? Why is your belt golden? This rapid-fire questioning left the Prime Minister Uncle's smile hanging by a thread, his aged face twisting like a bitter melon. Father coughed a few times, guiltily averted his eyes, and pretended not to know. As the saying goes, better the priest perish than the poor man suffer. If I returned to Father's side, he would be the one enduring hardship. That day, not a single official left the Hall of Mental Cultivation without trembling steps and unsteady bodies. There was no helping it. Whenever my little lips parted, 1,000 questions would spill forth effortlessly. Their questions left them sweating profusely, their mouths parched and tongues tied. By the time my tiny hands and feet had grown strong enough to run and jump fearlessly anywhere, not a single soul in the imperial palace could escape my incessant chatter. The moment I took my seat each morning before my father emperor, mother empress, and 6 elder brothers, I couldn't wait to unleash my vocal torrent. From the color of my robes that day and which palace maid had dressed me, to how many birds I'd heard singing, what floral scents I'd caught on the breeze, or even ants relocating in the garden soil, no detail is too small to be recounted. They made such a racket that it left our royal father and mother with ears ringing. My 6 elder brothers devoured their breakfast like a whirlwind and promptly made themselves scarce. According to my personal palace maid, in my younger days I could chatter away for hours even while holding a dog. He spoke of that dog with such despair that it fled in terror at the mere sight of me. Back then, my doting father would hold me in his arms and sigh deeply. "My precious princess, how did you end up with such a sharp tongue? Your brothers must have corrupted you." My quiet loving mother rubbed her temples, her eyes dazed. Don't make noise. Mother has a headache." Fearing my elder brothers would instinctively cover their ears upon seeing me, they passed me around like a hot potato. "Eldest brother is busy. Go find second brother. Second brother is busy. Go find third brother. Third brother is busy. Go find fourth brother. Fourth brother is busy. Go find fifth brother. Fifth brother is busy. Go find sixth brother. Sixth brother is busy. Go find eldest brother. Eldest brother." When I was still young, my father harbored delusions of making amends for me. Once Jinji learns to read, write, and understand reason, she won't be like this anymore. As the saying goes, the child is father of the man. One can predict old age from the age of 3. At the age of 5, I was eagerly sent by my father the emperor and mother the empress to the imperial study to begin my education. Seeing me bouncing with energy and cheerfully leaving with my study companion, my father and mother exchanged a glance, then wept for joy. Yet before 2 hours had passed, the grand tutor knelt before my father in tears, declaring himself unworthy of the task due to his limited knowledge, his words so desperate he seemed ready to dash his head against the ground. My study companion later reported that for every sentence the tutor spoke from the lectern, I could ask 10 questions from below it. From trivial daily matters to the vast ends of the earth, from word choices to ancient and modern affairs, she bombarded the grand tutor with questions until his vision darkened, his head spun, and he could answer nothing, left utterly shattered, pitiful to behold. Later, whether in as short as 3 days or as long as a month, the grand tutors assigned to teach me were replaced one after another, each weeping and wailing, crying out that they couldn't handle the task. Finally, gritting his teeth for the sake of his precious daughter, my imperial father rolled up his sleeves and took on the role himself. "Jinji, today we shall study," I said with burning eyes. "Father, today I discovered mother's little secret." Father's ears perked up, and he coughed deliberately to feign composure, whispering in a low voice, What secret?" I quickly huddled with father, whispering conspiratorially, occasionally letting out an eerie, foolish chuckle. The next day, father opened the book and said with utmost seriousness, "Jinji, today we shall study." I gasped in excitement. "Father, do you know why the Minister of Personnel has been walking with such an unsteady gait lately?" Father closed his book, puzzled. "Why?" I leaned my little head closer to father's side. "I heard the Minister of Revenue is infatuated with the capital's newest courtesan, spending all his days in pleasure houses." This drove the minister's wife to storm the brothel with her servants in tow. In front of everyone, the minister's wife kicked him right off the courtesan's bed. The minister took such a tumble that his backside suffered dearly. "That's why today he walks." The third day, I grinned and leaned my head closer to the emperor. "Father, let me tell you." Father covered my chattering little mouth. "Don't speak, let me do the talking. Today we're going to learn." I pouted my little lips and complained unhappily, "Don't you really want to know about Chancellor Uncle's secret hobby?" Father Emperor pricked up his ears. "The Chancellor, a hobby?" I patted my chest with full confidence. "The Prime Minister's wife personally whispered this to me. It's absolutely true." And so it was that Father Emperor's loving education plan was intercepted midway by Mother Empress, who noticed everything. Then my tutor became my 6 elder brothers. The first day was with eldest brother. "Big brother, big brother, what is a crown prince? Why are you the crown prince?" Big brother, what is a princess? Why am I a princess?" Big brother, why do I have to study the Analects today instead of the Book of Songs?" Big brother, "The Empress Mother said you're going to marry a crown princess. Is the crown princess pretty?" The elder brother's gentle smile froze on his face, his throat parched from speaking too much. The day after I left, the elder brother fell ill, his voice hoarse. The next day, it was the second brother's turn. "Second brother, Jinji wants to learn how to make the little wooden house like you do." Second brother, Jinji's little wooden hut collapsed. "Wow." Second brother's little hut was crushed by Jinji sitting on it. Second brother had a splitting headache, his slender fingers constantly massaging his temples. The day after I left, second brother fell ill from the unbearable headache. The third day was third brother's turn. Third brother frowned and said coldly, "Jinji, be quiet." I retorted with righteous indignation. Jinji couldn't stay still. The day after I left, third brother fell ill from sheer distress. On the fourth day, it was fourth brother's turn. Fourth brother pleaded desperately with father and mother, "My little ancestor, could you please give my ears some peace?" I agreed immediately. "All right." After staying quiet for just a moment, I leaned close to fourth brother's ear and said, fourth brother, Jinji wants to tell you." The day after I left, fourth brother fell ill from sheer anxiety. On the fifth day, it was fifth brother's turn. Fifth brother grabbed a stick and chased me up and down, his face flushed with rage as he roared, "Jinji, if you've got the guts, stop right there." I kept running while shouting over my shoulder, "Jinji has no guts." The day after I left, fifth brother fell ill from sheer rage. The sixth day was sixth brother. Sixth brother looked at me with panic on his face. Jinji, don't come any closer. I laughed loudly and dashed toward him. Sixth brother, Jinji is here. The day after I left, sixth brother fell ill from sheer terror. After tormenting all 6 of my brothers in succession, Father Emperor finally couldn't bear it anymore. He buried his face in his hands and wept in despair, and so, Father Emperor's long-cherished dream of having a gentle, cultured, graceful, and virtuous little princess was utterly shattered. The harsh reality left him with a chatterbox and gossip-loving golden branch. My imperial father gave up on correcting me, allowing me to grow wild and untamed. Thus for 18 full years, I became the famously talkative beauty known throughout the capital. Beautiful yet naive, loquacious and gossipy, my silver tongue could outmatch any opponent under heaven. So much so that the position of royal consort became something every man in the capital avoided, remaining vacant to this day. The entire capital sighed in exasperation. Such a perfect beauty of the capital, why did she have to open her mouth? That year, my father the emperor abdicated the throne to a worthy successor and wandered the world with my mother, carefree as drifting clouds and wild cranes. Before leaving, my father gave my eldest brother, who had just ascended the throne, a strict order: he must find me a royal consort this year. My eyes sparkled with excitement, and I chattered incessantly in my eldest brother's ear day and night. Brother, look at the eldest son of the general's family, handsome, strong, and powerful. He'd make a fine royal consort. Brother, look at that young man who rode through the streets yesterday, full of vigor and radiant with energy. He'd also make a fine royal consort. Big brother, look again. The very next day after the news spread, the eldest son of the general's family got engaged. The young man who once rode through the streets on horseback took a wife. Finally, my elder brother could no longer endure my endless chattering day and night. Adhering to the principle of compensate for what's lacking, they betrothed the young master of the Zhenghua family to me. I raised an eyebrow. Chuining, that sickly shut-in who never steps foot outside. Do I need sickness? My eldest brother cleared his throat and said, What do you mean sickly? He was just poisoned as a child and is slightly weaker than ordinary people. That's all. The poison ruined his voice, leaving him unable to speak. I clapped my hands in delight. One of us is a chatterbox, the other mute. What a match made in heaven. My elder brother looked at me hesitantly, as if wanting to say something but holding back. Are you really going to take him? I agreed without hesitation. Of course I want to. A mute paired with a chatterbox, it's a perfect match. I thought the very next day after the news spread, the Zhenghua manor would be in utter chaos. To my surprise, for 3 consecutive days, the Zhenghua manor remained completely silent. No good looks, no betrothal, no wife. Nor did he weep and wail before my emperor brother, begging for mercy. Instead, he respectfully accepted the imperial decree of arranged marriage without raising any objections. Late at night, I jolted upright in bed. Does Chuining have some kind of problem? What kind of decent man would want to marry a chatterbox, gossipy, and high and mighty princess? On second thought, it makes sense. Chuining is a sickly fellow, so it's only natural he'd have a few quirks. The palace maid on night duty heard my movements and pushed the door open to enter. With practiced ease, I kept the maid by my side and took advantage of the perfect night for a long, heartfelt conversation. The conversation veered from Chuining's birth chart, family background, upbringing, and appearance to just how frail Chuining really was. Was he the type to gasp for breath after every step? Even though I'm a master of gossip and the biggest chatterbox in the capital, Chuining, being a sickly recluse, rarely made public appearances. There were hardly any rumors about him in the city. I only heard that once. A noble lady caught a glimpse of him by chance and exclaimed that he didn't seem like a mortal man. From then on, she fell hopelessly in love with him, unable to extricate herself, and vowed to marry no one else. After a night-long conversation, my curiosity about Chuining grew even stronger. The next morning, I woke up refreshed and full of energy. Gossip always gives me a second wind. In contrast, my personal maid was listless, with dark circles under her eyes. Completely dazed and barely conscious, I thoughtfully granted her a long leave and summoned my personal guards, ready to set out for some serious action. Come, let's see what my future consort looks like. I, Shinjinji, have been a chatterbox and gossip for 18 years, and I know full well that appearances can be deceiving. To truly see what kind of person Chuining is, I had to take an unconventional approach. I chose to sneak in by climbing over the wall. Chuining lived year-round in a manor outside the capital's suburbs for the sake of recuperating. In the desolate wilderness, the vast estate stood alone and isolated, where even in broad daylight, scarcely a soul could be seen. This made it all the more convenient for me to sneak in. Climbing over the towering wall, I gazed out at the profound silence, tranquil and peaceful, yet so unsettling that goosebumps prickled across my entire body. I, Shinjinji, rarely have such quiet moments. In the courtyard, an ancient pavilion with upturned eaves stands by the water. 100 flowers bloom, yet none compare to the breathtaking beauty of the person in the pavilion. The figure in the pavilion has a face like a painting, a tall and straight posture, dressed in snow-white robes that outshine the snow, with an ethereal aura as if an immortal descended to the mortal world. His face was utterly devoid of color, even his lips tinged with a deathly pallor, betraying a sickly frailty. Yet this was paired with an innate, frost-like elegance between his brows, making him seem less a mortal man and more an immortal descended from the heavens. I clicked my tongue in admiration, my lustful heart surging, practically drooling with desire. But just as Chuining took a single step out of the pavilion, he halted abruptly, his brows knitting slightly as a sudden wave of pallor washed over his face. I recite poetry and compose couplets, graceful as a delicate flower mirrored in water, her movements like a tender willow swaying in the breeze. What a perfect sister Lin. Chuining's figure froze momentarily, his expression turning slightly unnatural. After walking a few steps, his breathing became rapid. I shook my head with self-satisfaction, her delicate brows knit in a faint frown. And she bore the fragile air of one ailing, truly a little fairy. Chuining's face froze, a sudden flush of red spreading across his cheeks as his breathing grew uneven, shallow one moment, heavy the next. I heaved a deep sigh, step by step, pausing to catch his breath. Is this man just not up to it? The next moment, Chuining's gaze landed precisely on me, his indifferent eyes carrying a hint of glaring anger. I awkwardly forced a wide smile and stammered in panic, "Young Master Chu, are you feeling all right?" Realizing my blunder, I hastily tried to correct myself. "No, young Master Chu, I wasn't saying you're capable. You don't look capable at all. Damn it, what nonsense am I spouting?" Chuining's ink-black eyes gradually darkened with anger, glaring wide with fury. His lips moved soundlessly, forming no words. I breathed a sigh of relief, definitely mute. I spoke rapidly, words flowing like a river, the phrases tumbling out. "Lord Chu, I didn't mean to imply you're incapable. Look at this sky, boundless and clear. Look at this breeze, gentle and warm. Look at this water, crystal clear. Look at these flowers, blooming in full splendor. And look at this person, a celestial being descended to the mortal realm. How could you possibly not be capable? You can do it, you're exceptionally capable." Chuining's expression darkened amidst my endless chatter, his brows furrowing tightly, the corners of his eyes drooping, until he could bear it no longer and began gesturing wildly in front of my face. Utterly confused, a sudden inspiration struck me. I grabbed his hand, tears welling up in my eyes. "Young Master Chu, I knew you wouldn't mind my chattering." I felt as if I'd found a priceless treasure. Immediately, the entire courtyard echoed with my ceaseless chatter. Chuining would gesture a few times. I'd rattle off 10 sentences. He'd gesture again, and I'd launch into another 10 sentences. Gradually, Chuining's chest heaved violently, his cheeks flushing with 2 patches of crimson, making him appear increasingly rosy. On his fair skin, the veins on his forehead stood out tautly. His eyes seemed to spark with fire, his rosy lips rapidly parting and closing. A clear, mellow voice stumbled haltingly by my ear. You, shut up." I recoiled in sudden terror. "Wait, who's speaking?" I stared blankly at the clear, mellow voice, my eyes widening in shock. "Oh wow, a medical miracle," the mute spoke. Chuining seemed to suddenly wake up and shut his mouth, falling silent again. With an angry expression, he immediately turned and walked away. I stood frozen in place, at a complete loss. Chuining's personal guard eagerly approached, his eyes shining with excitement. "Princess, You're truly amazing. My master actually spoke. Yeah, I never thought I'd have this ability either. If I keep rambling like this, I might even turn black into white and bring the dead back to life. Suddenly, I feel like my future holds infinite possibilities. Chuining's personal guard was named Dajwang, true to his name. He was a 9-foot-tall, strapping man who took everything literally and lacked a bit of common sense. Along the way, he answered every question I asked in great detail, holding nothing back, and was even unusually warm toward me. According to Dajwang, when Chuining was 10 years old, he was poisoned severely, which caused his health to deteriorate drastically. And the poison also left him mute. Though his voice eventually recovered, it left him with severe psychological trauma. Despite being physically capable of speech, he couldn't utter a single word. Dajwang's eyes welled up with tears, the towering man overcome with joy. For over a decade, this is the first time I've heard my master speak. Your Highness, I truly can't thank you enough. Then, with great effort, Dajwang finally managed to squeeze out a sentence. Your Highness, you and my master are absolutely a match made in heaven, a perfect pair. I thought about Chuining's flushed face from anger and couldn't help but nod. Indeed, ever since I arrived, even the delicate ones have gained a bit more vitality. I asked Dajwang, when did your master notice me? Dajwang lowered his head and answered honestly. From the moment Her Highness spoke her first word, I raised an eyebrow, utterly shocked. How could that be? I was sure I spoke very softly. Dajwang stammered. The master has had exceptionally sharp hearing since childhood. I thought about what I'd said, Sister Lin, the rabbit god, his inadequacy, to have been caught gossiping behind someone's back, and by the very person in question. A wave of embarrassment welled up inside me. I stammered for what felt like ages, wishing I could cover my face and flee. I'm such a wretch. But I didn't escape. Dajwang kept me at the estate and even thoughtfully moved my guest room next to Chuining's. Dajwang said earnestly, this will make it easier for Her Highness to assist in treating the master. Noticing the slip in his words, Dajwang blushed and corrected himself. No, I mean, it'll make it easier for Her Highness and the master to cultivate their relationship, I solemnly declared. I really don't know how to cure muteness. Dajwang nodded perfunctorily, his face still filled with unwavering belief. I turned and saw Chuining's utterly speechless expression. He gestured animatedly at Dajwang. It suddenly made sense to me. Chuining said, Dajwang is a fool. I thought and thought. 3 people in one village, a chatterbox, a mute, and a fool. What a perfect match. I began treating Chuining's illness. Oh, wait, no. I was cultivating feelings with Chuining. Early in the morning, Chuining opened the window lattice, and I called out to him from a distance. Young Master Chu, have you eaten yet? He didn't answer, his ink-dark eyes fixed on me. I kept chattering away, talking to myself with great enthusiasm. Young Master Chu, the food here is too bland. I want something spicy. The spicier, the better. I see you've been raising koi fish. They're too thin. The ones in my mansion's pond have all grown fat as pigs. Master Chu, who tends to the flowers in your residence? They're exceptionally well cultivated. Master Chu, your complexion looks even paler today. Perhaps you should drink more hot water. With a sharp crack, the wooden window was slammed shut violently. I sighed, feeling utterly bored. I hadn't even warmed up my voice yet. Counting the people in this village, there were only 3, if I didn't bother Chuining. That left only the rigid and rule-following Dajwang. The moment I stopped talking, all my energy drained away. Before I could seek out Dajwang, he came knocking at my door first. A 9-foot-tall man stood by the door, silent as a guardian deity. Your Highness, the master asked me to show you around the estate. My eyes darted around as I spoke with feigned conviction. Where's Chuining? He should be the one doing this. Dajwang answered honestly. The master is in poor health and needs quiet rest. Before Dajwang could finish speaking, I turned and knocked on Chuining's door. After 3 knocks, the door opened promptly, revealing a fully dressed and composed Chuining. My eyes instantly lit up, sparkling with admiration, as words of praise poured from my lips in an endless stream. Young Master Chu possesses divine grace and peerless talent, with celestial beauty that rivals even Panan's legendary looks. Should you appear on the streets, you'd surely cause such a stir among the capital's citizens that they'd crowd to see you. Just like the crowds that overwhelmed Wei Jie, I kept up this torrent of flattery the entire way, not a blush on my cheeks nor a pause for breath, until I'd left Da Zhuang utterly dumbstruck, his eyes glazed over in stunned silence. Da Zhuang stumbled over his words as he forced them out. Her Highness the Princess truly lives up to her reputation. I smiled bashfully. Chu Guining kept restraining himself, repeatedly attempting to gesture at me, only to be interrupted each time. In utter despair, Chu Guining had no choice but to quicken his pace, his face flushed and breath ragged, yet refusing to slow down even a step. Exhausted from walking, I stopped to rest. Gulping down cup after cup of tea as if pouring water down my throat, Chu Guining sat panting on the stone bench, gasping for breath, his face even more vividly flushed than the delicate, blooming flowers in the courtyard. I clicked my tongue a few times, unable to resist blurting out, "Young Master Chu, if you were a woman, you'd be taken by force." After saying this, the speaker reconsidered and added sheepishly, "Oh, you've already been taken by force, and the one who took you by force was me." Chu Guining calmed her breath, gesturing and drawing in the air toward me. Da Zhuang translated in real time. "The master says, Your Highness the Princess, speak less, that's the one thing I can't do." I spent all day chattering incessantly around Chu Guining, from trivial matters like what I ate in the morning, what I wanted to eat, what I might eat tomorrow, to significant questions like what Chu Guining liked to eat, disliked to eat, or desired to eat. I even prattled on endlessly about every bit of gossip and amusing incident from my 18 years living in the capital, sparing no detail in Chu Guining's ears. Chu Guining would often start with an indifferent expression, then gradually twist into a pained grimace, and when it became unbearable, would simply turn and flee. He ran ridiculously slow, so I caught up with him in just a few strides. While showing concern for his health, I kept chattering non-stop in his ear. His complexion grew increasingly flushed as he panted, with healthy color rising to his face. I felt immensely relieved. The sickly beauty who used to gasp after every step now only panted after every 3 steps. Chu Guining's face changed colors upon hearing these words, his lips silently opening and closing as he gritted his teeth. He no longer points and gestures at me now, for no other reason than that pointing and gesturing is simply too exhausting. He can't keep up with my speaking speed at all. So after I've said 10 or 20 sentences, Chu Guining nods and shakes his head and nods, then quickens his pace to distance himself from me while wobbling his head. By the end of the day, I spoke to my heart's content. Chu Guining stared blankly, his legs sore, as he collapsed limply onto the bed. I said excitedly, "Master Chu, let's continue our conversation tomorrow." Chu Guining nodded and shook her head numbly. Da Zhuang's eyes welled up with tears. My master hasn't gone out like this in so long. Chu Guining started avoiding me. Zhuangzi is so vast, perfect for playing hide and seek. A wonderful day begins with hide and seek. Once again, I caught Chu Guining. He sat beneath the shade of a lush tree, sunlight falling into his eyes, beautiful, fragile, shattered, ethereal, as if he might vanish into the sky at any moment. I quickly stepped forward and grabbed his sleeve, smiling brightly. "I've caught you." He froze, looking at me with inscrutable eyes. In an instant, a smile bloomed at the corners of his lips, like winter snow melting into spring blossoms. "The breeze is pleasant, the scenery delightful, the company excellent, each element perfectly balanced, complementing one another." I suddenly felt as though I were drunk, my head swimming in a pleasant haze. When one is drunk, the urge to speak becomes irresistible. Words poured out in an endless, unstoppable torrent, flowing like a mighty river. Half an hour later, the smile on Chu Guining's face completely vanished. His slender fingers pressed against his temples as he gave me a helpless glance. I covered my mouth, allowing him a moment to catch his breath. Wonderful. Today, Chu Guining's tolerance for me had risen yet another notch. Had it been a few days earlier, he probably wouldn't have lasted even a quarter of an hour before fleeing in panic. I chuckled, feeling somewhat lightheaded with pride. "Chu Gongzi, aren't I impressive?" Da Zhuang had appeared soundlessly not far from us at some unknown moment. Chu Guining cast a meaningful glance at Da Zhuang. The 9-foot-tall giant instantly shrank back several steps like a mouse spotting a cat. I rubbed my nose and stepped forward with a grin. "Young Master Chu, Would you like to know why Dajwang helped me? Chuining let out an almost inaudible sigh and nodded slightly. Every movement carried a hint of helplessness and a touch of indulgence. I excitedly opened the floodgates of conversation, then couldn't stop myself, rambling on freely as my enthusiasm took over. If Dajwang helps me, he's helping you. Once I've cured you, you'll be mine. Wait for an auspicious day, and I'll tie up my beautiful little husband and take him back to my princess's mansion, amidst spring flowers and autumn moons, beneath warm hibiscus-red bed curtains. I'll make you my consort in every sense of the word. Chuining's face turned pale, then red, then pale again, his entire countenance burning with embarrassment. When he couldn't bear to listen any longer, he shot me an angry glare, then hopped up like a rabbit and stumbled away. Shameless. With that, he turned tail and fled in panic. I stood there clutching my sides with laughter. After a good long while, I finally got up to chase after him. When I finally found him, I was completely exhausted, panting heavily as I gulped down water straight from the teapot. Chuining sat leisurely in the pavilion, unhurriedly sipping tea from his cup with perfect composure. Paired with the beautiful scenery near noon, it created an atmosphere reminiscent of the poetic line, light clouds, gentle breeze near midday, strolling by flowers and willows past the stream. Straightening up, I was utterly baffled. No way, how much time has passed? Where's my big, sickly weakling? How come now my back doesn't ache, my legs don't hurt, and I can run for half a shachen without stopping? Dajwang met my puzzled gaze and sheepishly scratched his head as he explained. The master's constitution wasn't that poor to begin with, it's just that you never liked moving around much. These days of constant movement have proven that after all, a man's hands and feet are naturally quicker. My gaze fell upon Chuining, and that unyielding spirit surged within me. With a loud smack, I slammed my palm on the table. Chuining, let's go again. And then I was promptly bundled up and thrown out of the manor. As he left, Chuining's indifferent eyes took on a different hue under the sunlight. Sitting in the swaying carriage, I grew so bored I nearly dozed off. Without Chuining around, even my desire to speak diminished considerably. The group fell into an unusual silence, with only the rhythmic clatter of hooves filling the air. I was captured and brought back by my emperor brother, having wandered too freely in the countryside. I hadn't realized how swiftly months had passed. The wedding day was suddenly upon us. To ensure my marriage ceremony would proceed smoothly, my emperor brother specifically sent men to retrieve me so I could familiarize myself with the wedding procedures. Yet though the heavens and earth were favorable, human affairs were not. These were my last thoughts before losing consciousness. I couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh. Careless of me, gossip led me astray. I woke from unconsciousness, my head heavy and muddled. Opening my eyes, I saw a strange girl before me, clad in a bright red wedding dress, so glaringly red it made my head spin. I came to my senses in a daze, facing a somewhat unfamiliar face. Upon closer thought, isn't this Liu Yi, the illegitimate daughter of the junior tutor's family? My mind raced at lightning speed as all sorts of gossip and anecdotes about the junior tutor's household flashed through my mind. The junior tutor's inner household was anything but peaceful, a principal wife with 13 concubines, each a master of domestic intrigue, where open attacks and covert schemes were daily fare, fighting to the death as if cultivating GU, not to mention the young tutor's children, too numerous to count on one's fingers. 6 young masters and 8 young misses, apart from the 4th young master and 6th young miss born to the principal wife. The rest were all children of concubines. The maiden before them had delicate features, her clear eyes shimmering like rippling water, a beauty mark beneath them, her smile not reaching the depths of her gaze. It was precisely this beauty mark that rekindled my memory of her. Liu Yi, the illegitimate daughter born to the Minister of Education's 7th concubine, was a master of harem intrigue in the back courtyard. The minister doted on her as if she were a rare treasure, treating her in the household with privileges equal to those of the legitimate daughter born to his principal wife. If she had any flaw, it was that her love-struck mind knew no equal. Even Wang Baochuan would have had to share 2 ditches of wild vegetables with her, having a secret affair with her cousin, only to discover he already had someone in his heart and was merely using her for his own future prospects, sharing tender feelings with a down-and-out scholar, eloping with him. only to nearly be sold into a brothel, engaging in a clandestine romance with the son of a high-ranking official, only to be exposed by his lawful wife in public, utterly humiliated. Despite all this, the young tutor couldn't bring himself to blame her even slightly. Instead, he suppressed every incident, not letting a single whisper leak out. But what does this have to do with me? No matter how chaotic the junior tutor's household becomes, it's completely unrelated to me, a princess of the nation. Liu Yi saw that I had woken up, her expression fierce, a flash of madness in her eyes. You, a princess no one in the capital dares to marry, what right do you have to wed Brother Chuining? You're utterly unworthy of him. My head was full of question marks. If you're going to curse at me, then you're truly like a steamed bun thrown at a dog, what comes won't return. Digging your own grave. With a snap of my lips, I cut her off mid-sentence, words pouring out rapid fire and unstoppable. If I'm not worthy, then you are. Who do you think you are, a rat in the gutter, only daring to scheme in the shadows? If your words were spread today, it would be the biggest joke under heaven. From the commoners to the noble families in the capital, everyone would bend over laughing till their stomachs hurt. Who do you think you are, the unknown daughter of a minor tutor, unheard of for either beauty or virtue? If you hadn't kidnapped the imperial princess today, do you think anyone would even know your name? You dare to covet Chuining. Chuining is the sole heir of Duke Shunghua, while you're just a lowly-born daughter of a minor tutor utterly mismatched. Do you really think Chuining would spare you a glance? This is pure delusion. Oh, now I remember. I heard there's a woman in the capital who fell in love with Chuining at first sight and swore to marry no one else. Could that possibly be you? You're utterly spoiled by the young tutor, completely lacking self-awareness. Who do you think you are? Do you really believe you're special? Chuining may not speak, but he's not blind. He won't just take any woman who throws herself at him. All that love at first sight nonsense is bullshit. Do you really think Chuining would remember you? In his eyes, you're absolutely nothing. Liu Yi opened her mouth, lips trembling as if wanting to speak. But she couldn't find a chance to interrupt. My words stunned her into stillness, her expression darkened gradually, and the look she gave me grew increasingly venomous. My throat went hoarse from all the cursing before I finally stopped. Under normal circumstances, I could have kept swearing for another hour without pause. Liu Yi sneered coldly, the blade in her hand glinting ominously as she advanced toward me. Her Highness's reputation for sharp words is well earned, since you're so eloquent. I'll just cut out your tongue and silence you forever. She advanced toward me with a dagger in hand, clad in red, her face twisted in a ghastly expression, like a bloodthirsty female ghost in red. My entire body turned ice cold, as if all my blood had frozen solid, and I instinctively shut my eyes. Indeed, after years of reckless arrogance, I was finally going to die because of this mouth of mine. Sharp fingertips gripped my chin as the cold edge of the blade drew closer inch by inch. At the critical moment, a whistling sound pierced through the air beside my ear. Immediately after, Liu Yi's agonized scream echoed throughout the room. I opened my eyes, having narrowly escaped death, to see Liu Yi writhing in pain on the ground before me. A sharp, blood-stained arrow had pierced clean through her entire palm. The door was blasted open with a thunderous crash, and Chuining, clad in a vibrant red robe, strode toward me against the light. The moment my limbs were freed, I wailed and threw myself into Chuining's arms. Chuining, you've finally come. Chuining staggered for a moment before collapsing to the ground. I hazily remembered that my consort was a sickly man. Raising my eyes, I met Chuining's face full of apology. He slowly patted my back, his lips parting and closing, moving wordlessly. For a long while, a few distinct words tumbled out of his mouth one after another. Jinji. My eyes suddenly grew inexplicably warm, and my heart was overwhelmed with mixed emotions. He was calling my name. The first time you called my name, I opened my mouth, wanting to say something, but found my throat suddenly choked, unable to utter a word. Liu Yi's palms were dripping with blood, yet she still ignored the pain and lunged at Chuining with a pale face. Chuining swiftly pulled me back into his arms. Liu Yi, her face deathly pale, clutched desperately at Chuining's sleeve, tears streaming down her face as she poured out her heart. Brother Chuining, have you truly forgotten when we first met, It was Brother Gwynning who saw E alone outside and kindly gave her a ride back to the manor. From that moment on, E has kept Brother Gwynning firmly in her heart. E believed without a doubt all those vows she and Brother Gwynning made beneath the blossoms and moonlight. Brother Gwynning, do you still remember? With each word Liu spoke, Chu Gwinning's expression grew increasingly somber, his face darkened, then flushed red, then darkened again, until finally he couldn't contain himself and leapt up with a torrent of curses. Slan, Tria, Share, Oyus, Scown, Drell. I struggled to suppress my laughter when pushed to the brink. Even a mute might start stammering. Chu Gwynning yanked his sleeve from Liu's grasp with visible disgust, retreating several paces while muttering under his breath, I didn't, this is slander. He turned to look at me, his face growing redder with anger. Da Zhuang immediately dropped to one knee, speaking with righteous conviction, Your Highness, nothing of the sort happened, please don't abandon my master. I soothingly patted Chu Gwinning's hand, my face filled with determination. Gwynning, I believe in you. Since you saved my life, it's only right that I offer myself in return. Chu Gwinning's face turned even redder, though whether from anger or embarrassment was unclear. Surrounded by the formidable iron cavalry, Liu Yi was forced to kneel on the ground. The junior tutor, tears streaming down his face, knelt and cried out his innocence. After being abandoned by her lover multiple times, Liu Yi became mentally unstable, her mind afflicted. When Chu Gwining first met her and extended a helping hand, she mistakenly believed he was deeply in love with her. In her mind, Chu Gwining was the one who shared moonlit moments with her, deeply in love, utterly devoted, and pledged to spend the rest of his life with her, whereas in her heart, I was the tyrannical princess who abused power, forced a common man into marriage, and tore apart a loving couple. On the day of my wedding to Chu Gwining, she lured me alone with gossip about him, kidnapped me, and sought to eliminate me at all costs. Fortunately, Chu Gwining found me in time, or the consequences would have been unthinkable. Having uncovered the whole story, I heaved a sigh of relief, and my anxiously suspended heart finally settled back down. I knew all along that someone as introverted, lazy, and unsociable as Chu Gwining couldn't possibly have any connection with a madwoman like Liu Yi. While the death penalty may be avoided, living punishment is inevitable. The emperor waved his hand and ordered the Shaofu's entire family to be imprisoned in the dungeon, with their final judgment to be decided after the grand wedding. However, attempting to kill a princess of the nation is an unforgivable crime. The wedding proceeded as scheduled. Amidst the clamor of gongs and drums, Chu Gwining and I knelt 3 times and bowed 6 times, becoming husband and wife. After drinking the ceremonial wine, I smiled brightly and swiftly placed the red bridal veil over Chu Gwining's head. The veil was gently lifted, revealing Chu Gwining's breathtakingly beautiful face. I lifted his chin with my fingers, caressing it slowly, my tone playful. My dear young lord, once you enter the princess's manor, there's no escaping. 2 rosy clouds bloomed on his cheeks, glowing enchantingly under the flickering red candlelight, stirring one's heartstrings. My thoughts stirred, and in an instant I closed the distance between us. I pinned him beneath me, his clothes slipping away under the teasing of my fingers. My breath spilled hot against his ear as my hands traced patterns across his skin, weaving praises of his body in endless variations. His face flushed crimson under my whispered words, like a ripe blossom trembling